What's up, everybody? Today we're going to be talking about how I use fluid film to undercoat my Jeep. So what is fluid film? Well, first of all, it's a rust and corrosion protector. It's basically a wool wax based formula, and it just provides long-term protection for all your metals and it lubricates your moving parts. So important stuff. And I hate that I have to say this, but I am not sponsored by Fluid Film. I've never talked to anybody from Fluid Film. Everything you see in here I bought with my own money before I even started this channel. Just had to put it out there. So where I live, it snows. And when it snows, the county throws down a ton of salt. And when they throw down a ton of salt, it ruins the bottom of my Jeep. That's where fluid film comes in. So today, I'm gonna be showing you exactly how I fluid film the bottom of my Jeep. So I've owned this Jeep for 4 years now. Bought it in 2017, it's now 2021. And I did a review video on exactly how well fluid film's been holding up. I've been fluid filming it every single year for the past 4 years. So if you want to see that video, check it out. I'll put a link somewhere in this screen. But that's not what this video is about. This video is about how I get fluid film on the bottom of my Jeep. And that's not the way I do it, but I'm gonna show you how. It's gonna be a long process, but the very first thing you gotta do is get these tires off. Do you have to take the tires off your vehicle first? No, you don't. But it does make it significantly easier to get in all these little holes and stuff in the frame. So the first thing I'm gonna do is use a pressure washer. I'm gonna hose everything off. I'm gonna get all the big dirt off. Then I'm gonna cover the whole frame and all the components in this degreaser. And I got this brush from Chemical Guys. Scrub down all the big components and everything I can reach with it. And I'll go ahead, hose it off, and that should be done with the cleaning. So I'm gonna be using this stuff here. This is awesome. It's just a degreaser. Around here you can get it at dollar stores. I'm sure you can get it online. I'll throw a link in the description if Amazon has it. Also going to be using the pressure washer. You want to be careful when you're pressure washing. You don't want to spray it in any bearings or any of your seals. Kind of avoid stuff like your brake calipers, but your frame and everything, all that's fine to be pressure washed. So just be careful with the pressure washer. Get under there and hose everything off. Here's how everything's looking just pressure washed. I can go ahead and get the degreaser. I'm gonna go ahead, spray down, and just try to clean up all these areas as best as I can. This is an extremely dirty process, but I think we cleaned it up pretty good. This is not a show car, so I'm not really looking to get everything off. I'm just trying to get the big stuff off so the new fluid film has something to stick on. Do not wear your nicest clothes doing it. You're gonna get soaking wet and you're gonna get dirty. I went ahead and changed into some nice dry clothes. It is actually rather cold out here, but I try to speed up the process as much as possible, and I blew off the Jeep, try to blow off the ground, because you want everything dry before we actually fluid film it. So I'm just gonna wait around, let everything dry. The entire Jeep is nice and dry, so we're gonna go ahead and get the fluid film out. Fluid film, fluid film. Got it. There's multiple different ways you can actually get fluid film underneath your vehicle. What I choose to use is the actual fluid film spray gun. I'll put a link to this in the description. So when I apply fluid film, I use the spray gun, which goes onto this bottle just like so. And I also have the 5-gallon bucket. I'll put links to all this in the description, everything I use. But I go through a lot of fluid film. Like I said, I do this every single year. I've sprayed my dad's truck, so I just bit the bullet, bought the spray gun, bought the 5-gallon bucket, figured I'd do it right. You can also just use the regular rattle cans. They're pretty simple. So when you go from the rattle cans, you can get these little adapters, and they have these like 360-degree wands. If I were to undercoat the Jeep using rattle cans, I bet you I'd go through around 5 or 6 of these cans. So you can also get these little adapters here, these hoses, and it has a 360-degree end on it, and that just sprays it the whole way around. So you would just replace the top of that can, and then you can get this into your frame. So you'd feed it into your frame, you'd start spraying, and then you'd slowly pull it out. And then in order to coat the outside of your frame, it's exactly like spray painting. You're just gonna slowly start spraying it on, just like that. But like I said, I don't use the cans as much. I do use them, but I'll show you why I use them later on. So fluid film doesn't expire, but it does start separating, as you can see. This is after 4 years. I bought this when I first started doing it. This is the same bucket. So it will start separating after a while. So the first thing we gotta do is mix it all up real good. Here's what it looks like all stirred up. This looks like a big old thing of peanut butter. I use a bottle that was cut in half, and this is what I use to actually fill the paint gun bottle. You'll be able to see the consistency of this stuff real good. You don't need anything too crazy, but you will need an air compressor to run this fluid film spray gun. The very first thing I like to do when I spray my Jeep is get inside the frame. I also like to get in all these nooks and crannies, and I use the wand when I do that. So the wand just twists onto the spray gun just like so. And then you have this adjustment screw here, which that just locks it in place. So you can either screw this in further and you'll get less fluid film, or you can screw it out and you'll get more fluid film. So you'll just have to play with it. I just shoot it into a trash can, and that just gives me a good idea of how it's spraying before I actually take it over to the Jeep. So that's what I'm going to do now. Just test out that pattern, make sure I'm getting a decent amount of fluid film out of there before we start spraying the frame. So my air compressor does leak. I apologize about the sound. But like I said, the first thing I like to do is go ahead and spray inside all the frame rails and all these little nooks and crannies, all these little pockets, everything I can't reach with the normal nozzle. That's what I'm going to be spraying first. And in order to spray it, all you do is stick the tube into your little hole in the frame. You'll feed it the whole way through. You'll start shooting it in, and as you're shooting it, you'll just slowly pull it out till it gets to the end, and you'll let go of that trigger. A lot of the areas I was spraying were like inside of these brackets, inside of these engine mounts, all these cross members. I sprayed all the insides of them. I try to spray like the tops of these skid plates, some of these little gaps here in the gas tank and the gas tank skid plates. I try to spray in there. So that's what I use with the wand. Now we're going to switch over to the gun, and we'll be able to spray everything else, all the easy stuff that's on the outside. This nozzle here is adjusted the exact same way as that 60-degree one. So you got your locking screw. The further out you go with this nozzle, the more fluid film you'll be applying. And like I said, I'm not super careful. I don't tape anything off. I just get up under here and start spraying and get her done. Underside of the Jeep is undercoated. You just want to go around and double check to be sure there's no dry spots. Everywhere should be nice and wet with this fluid film. This is a good idea of what it looks like. Here's the back, the rear axle, back suspension. Got the hitch receiver real good. Now the ground is covered in this stuff, so when you're walking around, it gets pretty slick. So if you do this, be careful. And if you have a nice driveway or anything, you might want to put something down. Or if you're doing it indoors, you're gonna get fluid film on everything. So cover what's important. So this is where the cans come in. This nozzle is significantly smaller than the one on the spray gun, so I can get it in more areas. I got this little cap here that comes off. I can go ahead and stick the wand down in there, and I can spray for all the pinch seams. I want all the pinch seams and all the sheet metal as coated as possible. Now, the doors of the Wranglers have these little caps. I tend to break them, so I'll put a link in the description of the ones I use. They fit the Wranglers pretty well. And I like to just go ahead and spray inside all of this metal as well. Be careful that when you're pulling it out, you don't spray the whole interior of your Jeep. That would not be a fun day. The doors also have these same caps on them. And a pro tip, make sure you have your windows in the upright and stowed away position, because if you don't, and you end up spraying that window, you're gonna have a very fun time cleaning all that off. So make sure it's up so you're not spraying it. I also like to spray inside the hood. All these little holes are good access points. Then inside these fenders, I do try to spray inside of them. So I'll go ahead and get that done. And then I'll also spray inside of that second door, the driver's door. So I just sprayed down in here to try to keep some of that hardware from rusting. And I was able to switch back over to the spray gun. These access holes are a lot bigger. Just easier to use this thing. So if you give this stuff a couple days, all this yellow, like all the real thick areas, it's all gonna spread out and that'll all disappear and be clear. It'll just look like your frame's wet. And I really like the look of your frame when you're all done. It looks brand new. I do keep a can of fluid film in my Jeep. That way in the winter, if I get some spray or anything that ends up taking off that fluid film, I can just touch it up wherever I'm at, not a problem. So as you guys can see, this is a very messy project, but I usually just set aside one day a year in the fall, sometime around October, and I just get it done. That way, I know my Jeep's good to go. I shouldn't have any issues, and hopefully it'll last a nice long time. And that's how I fluid film the Jeep. So as you can see, it's not a really complicated process. Anybody can do it, even if you have no tools. You can get under your car with a can and just spray it down. It'll help prevent that rust. And then also, it really just takes an air compressor, the spray gun, and then the fluid film, and then you're ready to rock and roll. So the only other thing I got left to do is put these tires back on and take it down the road. I want to get that exhaust hot and get it smoking, because otherwise I'll be sitting at a light, and that'll be when it decides to burn off and people will be freaking out thinking that my Jeep's on fire. But just I'll avoid that altogether. We'll just take it down the road for a test drive right now. Thank you guys for watching. If you like that video, make sure you like and subscribe.